I call the Washington County Board of Education meeting to order. I'd like to ask our student board member from Daniel Boone High School, Austin Reed, to do the pledge, and Mr. Walters do our prayer to get our meeting started. Everybody stand, please.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for today. We thank you so much for just your love and grace on our lives. And God, we just come to you with just broken hearts tonight for this family that has lost their loved ones, their mom and dad. God, we just pray for these students. We pray for these kids, Lord, that you'll just comfort them and give them a peace beyond all understanding. God, we just pray that you'll help us to know how to minister to this family and to be swift in doing so. Lord, we love you and we praise you. Give us knowledge and wisdom tonight as we make decisions. In Christ's name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. All right, first on our agenda tonight is the review of our superintendent's contract and annual evaluation. I think in front of everyone is the copy of his evaluation. Just so everyone knows, by his contract, performance bonuses as part of the strategic plan developed pursuant to section 3C1 above, the board will establish 4 objectives, measurable benchmarks tied to the academic improvements of the Washington County schools. If that is met, we'll entitle the director to performance based on $2,500 apiece for each objective. As you can see in front of you, the 4 objectives and the score. I don't know if y'all want to take each one separate, vote on them all at one time, or whatever y'all want to do. Any questions? The first one is the improvement of the literacy foundation. The second one is improvement of high school math readiness. Third is improvement of future ready graduates. And 4 is effective leadership. That's the 4 objectives. And then of course, at the evaluation, you can see the score that he presented on each one. Mr. Flynn.
Make a motion if we approve a $10,000 bonus to Director Boyd for his job and for meeting 3 out of 4 of those directives.
I have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Did you say 10,000?
It's $2,500 per objective, and there's 4 objectives.
He met 3 out of 4 of them. One we did think was the graduation rate.
We did show improvement from last year. Of course, I think y'all know Terry well enough too. He's about setting standards that's very hard to meet, and but each year we're gradually getting to that point. So.
And we also have a higher number of credits than those school systems
Correct.
in our area, and we've been looking at addressing that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Any more discussion?
I will point out, graduation rate's a component, but, specifically the board identified the ready graduate indicator. And, that's what students either meeting at 21 on ACT or getting industry credentials or post-secondary credits to qualify for that, to be considered meeting that ready graduate indicator. And the last 2 years, we've kind of stayed at the same level at 44% of our seniors meeting those state standards, those state criteria, not really the standards. Either getting a 21 or higher on ACT, getting industry credentials, and or getting post-secondary credits, meeting that ready graduate indicator. Our goal is to be 75% or higher, so we're a long way from it. But, you know, unfortunately, we stayed right at the same, more or less at the same level. We actually dipped a little bit, about 1 percentage point this year's seniors compared to last year's. Ms. Host?
Yeah, even though you may not have achieved that level, unless you're going to plan on visiting every high school senior and tutor them and see how you could be held accountable and cause you to lose this amount. So I definitely support paying for that, even though that level wasn't achieved.
We're definitely headed in the right direction.
I agree with you.
Well, is that something that we need to take away or change, or the achievement?
Change
Because,
the rest of them.
you know, I mean, he achieved 3 out of 4. So, you know, and that's what we agreed on. If he achieved it, he gets it. If he didn't, he don't. So, you know, I think he's doing a great job. I'm just saying that we need to change this. Because if we're not gonna go by it, then what are we doing?
I think we can leave it alone, but you gotta look, still coming off COVID. We learned that we've got, what, 8? We're requiring 8 more credits than the state suggests, or they're mandated 22. I believe it is 22. And we are headed in the right direction, so I was a little disappointed in that part of their evaluation to see that you're not going to turn things around or overnight. And
Well, our overall fix was 100%.
It is. I mean, I mentioned 75, but, you know, always 100% is the goal. Just to share too, you know, the scale that we created, you kind of measure, 21-22 was 44.1% in that ready graduate indicator. This past graduating, you know, senior class, it was 43.9%. So it was a negative 0.3% percentile point difference. And then in the scale, in order to get at the highest score level 5, it would need to be a 5 percentage point increase. So it would have needed to have been at 49.1 or really 49.2 to be considered as hitting the mark. And obviously we didn't meet that. And you know, I will say this, and I agree that there's 4 indicators set up. 3 of them we did not meet, and I'm responsible for ensuring we do. And so I think that 3rd one is not met, so it should not include any kind of compensation.
So 7,500?
Yeah, if he hits 3, it's 7,500, 2,500 per objective. But his overall score was 427.5, which level of effectiveness is a 5, level 5 on the evaluation.
well, I think this was to guide us, but not so much confine us like policies are. And I think maybe if we do make any changes, we'll look at that at a retreat. But I do think that we are better off now than we were last year, and better off than we, you know, since he's come here, we're headed in the right direction. But I understand what you're saying, Keith.
But Chad, does he have a second?
He does.
Okay. Well, I'll support it, but I just, you know, I think we need to.
Well, too, if we change our credits on the high school side sometime this year for next, you know, it may make a difference on this for next time.
Well, I can't really see it changing on the credits because the extra credits these kids are doing, it's classes that they want to do. It's not their hardcore classes. So, you know, maybe we need to.
That also opens up an opportunity for them to be able to take a college level classes to enroll, where we're, you know, with those 8 extra credits, they're not being allowed to do that because some kids are just barely meeting those 30 that we're asking for.
And even lowering the credits, they can still take those classes if they want to
Oh,
take
yeah.
those classes.
Right, but at that point.
No, I'm talking
you
about the
know,
high school classes, the elective that they offer.
But what I'm saying is when you allow those extra classes that we are telling them have to take, when you take those away, that gives that opportunity to be able to meet some of this other in there. So I think some of that is on this board as a whole with our policy that's keeping those kids from taking those dual enrollment classes, which is a piece of this
Right.
objective. So I think I think we're hindering that a little bit as a board by keeping those numbers where we're at when it would allow that opportunity for those kids to be able to do those things and get more certificates and things like that.
I agree.
So let me say this, and when we redo this thing or whatever, maybe we should say that one, what would be a goal that we could hit? 2%, 3% over last year? Is that a decent number that, or 1%? I mean, what is it, Jerry? What would be a good?
Well, I mean, I'm very comfortable with the scale, and 5.1% would have resulted in being identified as a level 5, the highest level, which is what we want and what I expect of myself and everyone else. So I think that's a reasonable, I mean, it's a big lift, but I think it's reasonable. 5.1% increase. Like I said, that would have been over 49% from last year. If we continue to focus on the right things, I mean, it's going to move. It may not move that 5%, 5% points, but I think you got to keep your expectations high. And if you don't set them high, you're going to hit a lower target, and we don't want to do that.
Okay, any more discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer. Your computer not working? Get your phone out.
Battery operated.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd, we appreciate it very much. And I personally just want to thank you for you and your wife's leadership you brought to the county, your knowledge. And I think overall, everybody in the system sees what you've done. A short time you've been here.
Well, all I've done is I've joined a really talented team, and I've just been able to bring some of my experience and also build off of the hard work that was done before me. And it's not about me. It's there's a lot of hard work happening in our classrooms and our schools, and any of these indicators are only a result of that work. I'm just there to kind of help maintain a direction and remove barriers and ensure that our teachers and all of our staff and our students and our community know how great a school system that we do have, but we always can be better.
It starts with the leadership, and that's where you're at.
As you can tell, it's a lifetime struggle. I don't like praise.
Well, we just appreciate you. Okay, next is public comment, which I think there was none. Next, if I can get a approval for consideration of meeting agenda.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Yes. Is it dead?
Okay.
I'll agree.
Thank you. Next, if I can get approval of meeting minutes, please.
Make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes as presented.
Is there a second? Discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Second that, I didn't hear it.
Hence,
Mr. Walters. Heavy on the Mr.
Sherman, how you doing? You're just specialist.
I guess so.
One way of putting it.
Yeah. What'd you do, break it?
All agree.
Thank you.
I can't even get it to come on. I'm
All right, Mr. Boyd, announcements, please.
technology. Done.
Certainly, just, you note those in the agenda. Just next HUE committee, or the HUE committee meeting actually occurred on November 30th, so we had that listed there. As well as the budget, everything was a little bit earlier this month because of the holidays. The full commission's on the 11th. And you'll see, we all, as a reminder, we have legislative breakfast meeting with our state representatives and also our state senator. I was notified by Senator Crow, he has an obligation in Nashville as a committee or some kind of legislative work, but he is able to join us by call. So he'll be in Nashville, but he'll join us at that meeting at that time. I'll call him at that time to join the conversation. Another exciting event is scheduled and being organized by the town of Jonesboro is the ribbon cutting for the new Jonesboro Elementary School, 9 a.m. on December 15th. So looking forward to that, I guess, milestone in the process as we, move into the Christmas break and then get geared up for starting the school year, the 2024 new year in the new Jonesboro Elementary School for both, currently 2 separate buildings. So excited about that. We will have some hiccups, of course, with traffic patterns and normal first day challenges and adjustments that will need to be made, but overall, I want to hope we'll stay focused on how exciting it is. And I look forward to seeing all the smiling faces, both our students and our faculty and staff and community and family members when we occupy that building. Starts with the ribbon cutting. Just as a reminder, Christmas break begins at the end of the day on December 15th. It is an abbreviated day. It's a short day. On our website are the start times, so 2.5 hours after the start time is the actual dismissal time for each individual school. We have a couple that have different start times, so hopefully that can help everyone kind of mark when that dismissal time is. Our next meeting is January 4th. It also is the day that students return from the Christmas New Year's break. So, that's when all the students return. The faculty and employees will return before that, but first student day is January 4th. And then also note, January 25th is a workshop and board retreat. It's normal workshop activity, but what I hope we can have accomplished in that workshop is we talk about strategic retreat. It's really about gearing up for the upcoming FY25 budget cycle. As we begin to start those conversations, they've already started, but formalize, I'll be seeking just input from the board, specific areas that you really want us, as Mr. Hill and I pull together and work with all of our staff across the district in preparing next year's budget. Just certain areas of focus that you want us to really identify. With that, that's really all, other than, December 25th, Merry Christmas, everyone, and Merry Christmas. I'm looking forward to 2024.
Mr. Hammond?
I was just going to ask, what was the date of the retreat? I was gonna enter.
25th.
Yeah, it's in there. It's Tuesday, January 25th.
Thursday.
Is it Thursday? Okay, I had Tuesday.
Well, I had Tuesday, the 23rd as our workshop, so
That's
is
what I
that
had
the wrong
too.
date?
We'll verify that, but it's on during that week.
When we put out our calendar at the beginning of the year,
Yeah.
that was what was on there, was the
Tuesday.
was the 23rd,
Okay.
so.
And what we can do too, we can combine it if you want.
Well, I think that's the intent.
That was the
Okay, that's
intent,
what I
but the
thought.
thing was, is that the the original date was the 23rd.
And that's probably what it is. It's just.
Okay.
I would like to look into something about possibly a resolution about the vouchers, like similar school systems are doing. Because they go back, I think they go back the 9th. And our meeting is the 4th. So, if we could look into it before then, maybe check to see if our board
We might do
attorney.
it the 12th when our representatives are here. Bring it up.
Well, I wonder if we could do that, if that's something that we have to have a
Well-
called meeting for.
Well, it requires, the resolution requires the action of the board.
Yeah,
We could have the discussion with the legislators and then maybe work to craft a resolution for the
Yeah.
January 4th board meeting for your consideration, so that it is something that is available prior to them beginning the legislative session
I like that
later in
idea.
January.
Yeah.
I've started writing one at home already
Have you? Okay.
for people to look at.
Sounds good.
Mr. Boyd, when are the students going to get their first look at the school?
No, it'll be before January 4th. Actually, Mr. Combs is scheduling some opportunity for them to walk through prior to Christmas break. Matter of fact, Dr. Adams, I think December 15th, the current plan is to include all the Jonesboro school, all the Jonesboro students in the ceremony somehow, some way on site, okay?
We're busting them all over.
So that'll be, if not before then, that'll definitely be a time where they will be able to walk through the facility with their teachers and see their areas prior to the break.
And I think we're gonna schedule a walkthrough as a board, maybe sometime in February or March. When students are in.
That'd be good.
So the teachers will get to start moving after Christmas or after school lets out, they'll be able to go back and forth to their classroom and get it ready? Is that what we're
Well,
shooting
we
for?
want it before then, but what's been somewhat of the delay, currently we don't have official certificate of occupancy. We have, our maintenance department has continued to move teacher items into their, if you do walk through the school and you go into a particular classroom and look in their closet,
Okay,
or even on the floors of their
They've
classroom,
got
their labeled boxes of their items are sitting there.
I've seen that on social media.
And our
There.
technology department is also transferring and setting up technology. So, it's all underway. It's just, it's certainly, we would have wanted to already have a certificate of occupancy. But to answer your question, we hope that prior to December 15th, they'll be able to spend some time in their classroom. That's the goal, and we're still pushing hard for that. And I know it's right in front of us, but that's what we want.
Don't they have 2 days before the students?
They do have 2 days before they.
2 days.
And their days, it's typically a planned professional learning, structured professional learning day. Obviously, in their case, it's intended to be 100% preparation and setup time for them. We do not expect, or should we expect them to be focused on, learning is always important for our adults, but in that case, their mind needs to be on that January 4th date when their students are going to show up in the new building.
It's easier for the upper grade teachers to be able to do it, but the younger grades to set up all stations.
If you go and look in the classrooms of the lower grades, there's a lot more boxes to unpack than the upper grades.
I can imagine.
Okay, I guess we move into your report now, please.
We'll start with our student board member. Austin will have this floor. It should be, but you might want to project your voice loudly.
Okay, so I was tasked with going over the current system events over the entire Washington County school system. So I'll go ahead and get started. EOCs, I've started in most, if not all, schools in the county. They started on November 30th and they're supposed to end on December 15th, which is also the last day of the first semester of the 2023 and 2024 school year. For academic awards / events, 2 schools in the county have been given a TBAAS level 5, those being Grandview and Boones Creek Elementary, and Sulphur Springs Elementary School has become a STEM school for the years of 2023 through the year 2028. For the Teachers of the Year, there are 4 schools that got Teachers of the Year, starting with David Crockett, Miss Phoebus, for the Lamar School, Mrs. Ferguson and Mr. Snyder. For Sulphur Springs Elementary, Mrs. Swiker and Mrs. Yarber. And for Westview Elementary School, Mrs. Green and Mrs. Moats. For the sports events, basketball season has begun in many high schools and most likely middle schools as well, including Daniel Wood and David Crockett. David Crockett's girls cross country team was regional champs at their conference, while the boys cross country team was runner up in their conference. And Daniel Boone's girls cross country finished 4th in the state while the boys cross country finished 9th overall, making the 13th consecutive year that they have finished in the top 10. And the last slide I have is Christmas events. The Lamar School Music Department is having a Christmas performance on today, December 5th, which will be performed by the 4th grade. And Silver Springs Elementary is holding a community chess event in collaboration with Silver Springs Baptist Church to help families in the community for Christmas. So thank you for allowing me to do this, and Merry Christmas.
Thank y'all. Good job.
Yes, sir.
So you didn't have any EOCs,
Not this year.
right? You crossed that one.
I just have one AP class.
Yeah. So which AP class are you in?
AP Literature.
So what do you want to be?
Just more accurate figures.
Okay. Sure. Well, you know, at some point, the board's attorney is really strong in that area. Maybe you'll have a chance to talk to Mr. Bennett. He's a good resource to talk to. So the rest of the items are for, information, public record, the enrollment updates, everything's fairly, with a few up and downs across all of our schools, but for the most part, it's remaining pretty stable. As you know, field trips these are field trips that don't require board action. They're just local regional field trips that aren't overnight or out of state. Just an ongoing list of maintenance items and projects that are ongoing and some completions. Mr. Hale provided at the work session overview of the financials, and these are the same items that he reviewed. But again, for public record, all of those items are available for view. Personnel report, just our monthly personnel activity that we put together and provide monthly grant reports, of course, continuing to identify, we want to identify some new grants, and we'll be working in the spring to really aggressively go after some new, because several of the grants are expiring that were provided through the state and federal government through the ESSER dollars. Grant funding is an important component of our ability to be innovative and also go beyond what local and state taxes provide us, and it's not at the expense of the taxpayers locally and regionally. And then finally, Lewis Group is not here tonight. I told them they would be fine to just send me an update, and I provided that to each of you in an email, and also I added it to BOE Connect for just, again, for public record and transparency. As you can see, we're moving forward with the stadium upgrades in that Lewis Group report. We're still working towards the rebid as directed by the board on the security enhancements. My anticipation is we'll get that advertised, and the process will run its course after the first of the year. And then we can bring it back to the board. Other than that, that's all of the items for updates.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Next is, if I can get a motion for consideration of consent agenda.
Make that motion.
Discussion. Let's vote, Jennifer, please. Thank you. Next is our discussion and presentation. First is consideration of the school year calendar, and I'll let Mr. Boyd go over that, please.
Certainly. Our calendar committees, we had to divide. Ms. Hayes is actually meeting with the town of Jonesboro about this Saturday's parade. So getting the details about our involvement in the parade, and Dr. Davis, who also was involved in that, is at a national Learning Forward conference on curriculum instruction and learning. So they prepared all the information and worked with the calendar committee that the board appointed, and the recommendation, they summarized the information received from a variety of surveys. We narrowed it down to two options. We have some different language. It's either option 1 or option A or option 2 or option B, but 1 and A are the same and 2 and B are the same. But bottom line is, you can see from the survey of all stakeholders that the selection was a preference for option B. And essentially, option A aligns, there's an alignment, direct alignment with both fall and spring break with Johnson City Schools. And option B, it falls a week later in the spring, but the fall break is the same. So the difference between A and B in the 3-year calendar are the breaks, and only the spring break. Otherwise, there's a very close similarity and alignment to the 2 school systems calendars in Washington County. But based on the data, the option B was what all groups lean towards. There was a very close margin. But for some reason, that later week in March seemed to be more appealing to everyone that took the time to provide feedback and choosing between the 2 options. Dr. Davis and, in the committee and Ms. Hayes just wanted to point out the main difference between option A or 1 and option B or 2 is just that spring break week. It's just not a lot. The B is not the same as Johnson City. And that was based on feedback we received from the previous survey, that there was several comments and requests that we have some alignment with Johnson City Schools calendar.
So their break is earlier in March?
Yeah, I believe the week, and option B is maybe the week before.
So more people wanted
Option
B.
Option
The
B.
spring break a week later
Okay.
than what was provided.
Mhm.
Johnson City, they don't have their 3-year calendar out, but in talking with them, their process is pretty simple. Basically, determine the start date, and then exactly 9 weeks after that is when their break falls.
I think they try to align theirs more with ETSU too, and that is in the middle of March, so.
Mr. Walters?
I make a motion that we, as a board, approve option B or number 2 for the school year calendar beginning in 2024, 2025, and going through the school year of 2026 and 2027.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Discussion?
Question, the one that was up here before, as far as the committee recommendations, showed that they liked A better. Who are we talking about on the committee?
All those that the board approved as appointed the members of the committee. I think in their discussion, they were going back to the original thought exchange where people put open-ended input and the theme of the alignment with the Johnson City Schools, but the pure vote on just the options. So the committee's preference was to go with that original request to stay aligned to Johnson City's, but the overall vote of everyone was to go with B. So they just made their choice and then recommended with advisement based on that overall outcome, which B had the most votes. They just wanted to point out that B also meant that there wasn't an alignment in the spring with the spring break.
It showed percentages up there. Do we have totals, numbers?
It lists the response numbers. You see 11 committee members.
No, I'm talking about the
You see response there, 452,
52.
and that's, some groups, those are the actual employees there, and then we have the overall committee pie chart. If you go back up to the top, there should have been some data on that. And there's 1,895 responses. If I can read that, that's pretty far for me. It looks like 1,895 responses in that. That simple survey, is it option B or option A? And as you see, 52.9% said B and 47.1% said A.
Mr. Twain?
Jennifer, can you go back to the employees?
Somebody had a suggestion to start after Labor Day. I'm sure that.
County faculty.
Think of that.
Mr. Boyd, is that for 3 years, is that every year that the spring breaks down the line?
Right.
Okay.
So that's So 73.7% of the teachers.
Of the employees responding, we
Right.
had almost 74% of them indicating in the survey that they were a teacher. So we had a good representation of our teachers.
Did we get a breakdown of the teacher vote? As far as,
I don't have that data in front of me. As you can see, it's still over 50% of the employee survey was option A. With 75, almost 70, over 75% of them are teachers.
Mr. Boyd, how hard would it be to poll the stakeholders in a year-round calendar? Even though if we adopt this as 3 years, we'd be this locked in, but how hard would it be just to see a sample calendar of a year-round schedule and see what the stakeholders would vote in that?
Well, we have the fortunate, if you're looking at a 9 and 3 calendar, which is a true balanced calendar, if you get into the weeds on your own calendar, you got groups off and on. If you do a pure year-round, it gets a little complicated. If you look at university schools calendar, which many in the area, especially the parents of students at university, they're familiar with the 9 and 3 calendar, the true balance calendar. They start in early July. So we actually have a model of what that looks like. And basically use that if we wanted to start a discussion. I think it does it makes us, that's a small number. University schools service approximately 600 students by choice. It's a pure choice school. So when you're talking about everyone else and the impact it has on the community, past, observations and reading past experiences of communities that's gone through those discussions. There's a lot of active debate on benefits as well as the detriments of doing a pure year-round schedule.
I just like to see that data. Even though we got a vote or motion in a second to approve this 3-year calendar, and I assume it'll go through, it'd just be nice to see what the stakeholders.
Sure. Well, we had some, we had, Ms. Delger pointed out, which in every school calendar conversation, somebody, usually someone that is in a generation of mine or even before, said we didn't start school until Labor Day. But over time, we've added instructional days in the state of Tennessee. We also are under additional requirements that weren't available then or weren't imposed then. And so our assessment window also really influences how our calendar runs. And so we know those are all factors that have to be discussed. And that would have to be discussed if we look at starting in early July.
I just like to see where those numbers would lie. And for us as a board, for planning long-term planning,
Sure.
It would, we got a 3-year calendar in front of us, and say it doesn't get approved, nothing would change for 3 years, but it would at least give us an idea of whether or not folks would like to.
Right. Well, we serve, I know some people get somewhat annoyed by surveys, but that's one of the best ways we have to get information. We utilized a new tool that we hope to continue to utilize in what's called the thought exchange, where actually you just ask a simple question and people are allowed open-ended wise to submit their ideas and thoughts, and then the rest of the participants are able to then look at everybody's responses and determine which ones are aligned best with them, and they rank them. So then through that process you actually see which ideas are aligned with most people's preferences. Without us, a lot of times if you do a standard survey, the people that design surveys, sometimes you're designing them so it somewhat has an outcome that you might expect. But with an open-ended survey like Thought Exchange, it doesn't work like that. You actually get to see the thoughts. And some of them are very good and some of them are very questionable. But, it's part of the process. It's a great process.
Mr. Ellerstone.
since I've been in this area since 2009, all I have heard from friends, parents, teachers, why aren't the calendars aligned? And this gives us an opportunity to do that by choosing calendar A. And for that reason, I'm going to vote no for the calendar B.
Any more discussion? Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
David. Mr. Chairman, how do you vote?
I vote yeah.
It's approved with 1 no.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll get this posted. I know there's several parents that have already asked when a decision's made, when is it gonna be available? We want to put it in a more friendly format. We'll provide this format, of course, what the full detail of what the board approved, but we want a family-friendly format that we would put out there for public view and use.
On the website.
Yeah, we'll have it for be able to be downloaded on our website.
Greg, I know what you're talking about, trying to line the calendars, but I like the idea of having a little bit later date to get out because it can be, because of weather. It could be snowing in March, I'm just.
It's only a 1 week difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
Essentially, yes.
I know, 1 week.
Okay, next is consideration of awarding bid for security camera upgrades. I'll let Mr. Boyd go into more detail on that, if he would.
Certainly, and Dr. Adams and Mr. Fulbright are here if there's any questions, but I think, essentially I'll sum it up and they can jump in if I say anything and put me on a better path. We had 3 bidders for, these are for upgrading our security cameras across the district. One of our goals also is to go to a system that has technology that is both current as well as will be future ready, and including recognition of license plate and so forth when vehicles come on the campus, especially unauthorized vehicles. So this particular platform, the specifications were written at the highest level, and we had 3 bidders, and 2 of the bidders did not meet the criteria, and then the preferred bidder was a little higher, but they met 100% of the criteria. It's also a vendor that we have worked with for years, have a high level of trust and proof of commitment to our school system, and the recommendation is that we go with Teleoptics for $1,141,940,000 for the full upgrades across the system.
And they're out of Kingsport too, so that's
They're
even,
local.
yeah.
They are local, and as I said, they met 100% of the requirements we have. This is county, educational capital funds, capital investment funds. We already have talked with Mr. Shrewsbury about the bid and about the details and about our recommendation, and he has not indicated any concern. So we're following all the 1957 purchasing requirements that the county's under, as well as our own. And also we know we have a relationship with this vendor, and we also know the product that meets the specification is exactly what we know we need in our schools.
This is County Educational Capital Fund, 600,000. What would fund the other 581,000?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we had to do some, utilize our blended funds, and we already sought approval from the state to use our some of our ESSER $3, particularly at the high schools. They're the larger projects. So then the plan is actually for approval for ESSER dollars to pay for the high school updates. And then 600,000 would be applied for, across the board for the rest of the updates for the most part.
Mr. Riddle.
I'd like to make a motion that we award the bid to Teleoptics for security camera upgrades.
We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion.
Is it not to exceed the 1,181,940? Or just?
Yes, sir. I mean, that's their bid that we're on to it. And honestly, we may have an opportunity at meeting with them once the bid's awarded to look at some areas, and as we can with any bid, we may be able to negotiate the price down a little bit based on some minute details, but it won't exceed 1.181 million.
Mr. Walters.
What would be the time frame to get these completed?
Well, we have to have the high schools installed by the end of the fiscal year. I put in the specifications that the remaining schools have until September.
Mr. Cannon?
Is the 600,000, is it already been approved from the capital fund or?
It has. We have received approval to the queue and the budget committee and the full commission. We just had to identify and finalize the bidding process.
Thank you.
Any more discussion?
I had to go to the restroom. What was the,
Oh.
who made the?
Whitney made a motion to go with Tele-Optics because they met all the criteria. It was a little higher, but, I think
Nobody
Mr.
else?
Fultz.
They were the only one that met the criteria.
Right.
The other two, in one way or another, didn't meet the bid specification criteria.
And they are vendor reviews in the past. And I think Mr. Fulbright, that's your recommendation too, I think, right?
Yes, sir.
Any more discussion? Let's vote, Jennifer, please.
Unedited. Sherman.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, next is our policy. The 5 policies are approval of policies on second and final reading. Mr. Flainer.
Make a motion, we approve 4704, 1701, 2400, 26.0, or 2.601, 2.8051, all on second and final reading.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I know I mentioned to you, Mr. Boyd, in regards to a deadline as to when the students are to be notified. I'm just seeing in here, is that February 1st date? Doesn't look like there's a change, so apparently that's there, but there is some language that lets you get around it further on down based upon certain things. So that's what I was most concerned with, is that they say that they're going to work some sort of a plan within 15 days to do it, but from what date? So there is a date.
When you say get around it, I'm not really clear on what you mean.
Meaning, I want a date in there for the parents to know when the child is being considered for retention. So when I'm talking about that there are some exceptions down here which are good. Date of enrollment, additional information, other academic, social. So in other words, we're not locked into where if we don't tell them on February 2nd, till February 2nd, the kid isn't automatically promoted. In other words, we've got to have some leeway in there, which this allows.
Okay. Now that, I could take it under advisement. I don't know that it needs to be in policy. I mean, you certainly can make that suggestion, but I think we can address that in procedure.
I think we discussed that in the workshop too, that it can be mentioned before.
That's
This
true,
just
yes, we
gives
did.
us something in writing. Yeah, this right, is that what, should something, yeah. Yeah, it can be mentioned. Isn't that?
Well, it says schools shall identify these students by February 1st, so there is a date there, which is what.
Right, so I don't understand, I mean, I guess I'm not clear on with the date explicitly mentioned and with, I guess, exceptions listed, then February 1st would be our date.
Then this is saying February 1st isn't the date unless it has those other exceptions. I mean, that's the language that's there right now,
Sure.
as we're passing.
Well, I mean, I know schools begin their conversation, particularly with third graders, based on data, the first data set from the fall.
Test, right?
And then that elevates if the student continues to demonstrate that they're not growing or being successful. So, I mean, I feel like our schools are meeting that expectation without any more detail in the policy that exists.
Well, by then, the second Ames test will have been given.
Yes, sir. Yeah, typically that data is given in the universal screener in the mid-year is by February 1st, and that's likely why that date's there.
Any more discussion? Let's vote, Jennifer, please.
Unedited. Sherman.
Yeah.
All agreed.
Thank you. That ends everything on the agenda. I do want to just one quick note on dates. December 12th, 9 a.m. is our legislative meeting here at Central Office. December 15th is the Jonesboro ribbon cutting at 9 a.m. Then our January board meeting is the 4th of January. So, other than that, I want to wish everyone a happy Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Oh, I want to do 6:30.
Absolutely.
You gonna eat the time?
I'm gonna go with.